This is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you. I'm going to be doing a garden install. You might be thinking, John, if you're doing a garden install, why are you outside Orange County Farm Supply? Well, that's because before any garden install, you got to pick up the supplies and the stuff that you're going to be installing. So what we're going to do today is actually have a friend who is in actually a wheelchair. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually get her set up with a garden that she can harvest and plant and everything from her wheelchair. And the great people here at Orange County Farm Supply at 1826 Chapman here in Orange, California is going to be helping me out in supplying the potting soil and the different things. So that's why I'm here. We're going to pick up the potting soil and the plants. If you live anywhere in the Southern California area, Orange County Farm Supply is a great resource to have. I mean, this is my stop to get the products I need to have a successful garden. So next what we're going to do is we're going to head inside Orange County Farm Supply and pick up the soil, the minerals, the trace minerals, and some other good stuff to put in her garden. Oh, and don't forget the plants too. So Orange County Farm Supply is open every day from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. They're open 6 to 4 on Saturday, and they're closed Sunday. So this place started by actually selling farm supplies to the farmers in the area, because this whole area, Orange County, was, guess what? What do they grow? Oranges, and now it's mostly all residences and hardly any farmers left. So while this place still does cater to farmers, they also sell to many homeowners, and I've slowly seen them expand their product lines to have more and more organics. And these are the things that you want, including things like the trace mineral supplementation for your soil that can be very hard to find. And actually, I learned about a new kind that they're actually offering here that I am now using. So, you know, I have to thank Orange County Farm Supply for staying on top of all the latest products and providing them to you guys. So let's come inside and get some of these products to make a fabulous garden for my friend. I'm so glad that Orange County Farm Supply has a whole wide variety of actually plant starts and also the soil that you need to get a garden going. So what I need to do first, before even picking out the plants, got to get the soil. The soil to fill your raised beds or your garden with is the most important thing by far. And this is where you want to spend, you know, the most money on, because, you know, the health of your plants is dependent on the soil that you're planting them in. So I'm really glad here that they actually got some really good soil mixes that we're going to go ahead and pick and put on this cart. And now we're going to go ahead and pick out the potting soil. You know, now potting soil can vary widely. There's all different kinds of potting soil. They got potting soil here, they got potting soil there, they got potting soil here, and they also got garden soil and all kinds of different mixtures. So, you know, depending on what you're going to do with the soil you're buying is the kind you're going to need. So we're doing basically a raised bed, but it's going to be an elevated raised bed, you know, at wheelchair height, so she can actually just reach over and you know, harvest and plant and do everything she needs to do. So, you know, in that case, for me, you know, a raised bed is more like a little container. It's more like a pot. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is specifically picking out some potting soil instead of the garden soil, which the garden soil you'd actually enrich your garden beds with, but we're just going to use a potting soil because it's going to be a self-contained growing medium for her. The basic difference is the potting soil is basically going to retain water just a little bit better by having some ingredients such as peat moss or the coconut coir or things like the vermiculites. When picking out a potting soil, one of the things you want to look for is you want to look for something that's organic. You know, I want things that are found in nature in my garden. I don't want things made out of chemicals. Many potting soils available at big box stores may contain things like, you know, chemicals that you don't want in your garden, that I wouldn't put in my garden. So what I'm looking for here at Orange County Farm Supply is the organic ones. And actually, I think all the stuff they have here, I would have probably no issue putting in my garden. That being said, we're going to pick out a specific blend of things to put in her garden that we're going to be building for her. Now you might be thinking, John, what is the best potting soil to use? What's the one brand? Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I've seen a lot of these brands before, but I haven't personally used them. So in my opinion, the safest thing to do is get like one of each and mix them all. That way you get the benefits of one, the benefits of another, and you just mix them all up so that your plants could grow happily. The first one we're going to go ahead and pick out is right here. This is actually called the Eco Scraps. This is no chemicals, no poop, organic. It's 100% safe for people, pets, and planet. And this is made from a variety of composted fruits and vegetables and other natural ingredients. When choosing a potting soil or a compost, I'm always trying to look for things made out of food scraps or yard clippings and plant products, not necessarily the manure-based potting soils and fertilizers. I like the plant-based ones because to me this is much more natural. You know, in nature, in a forest, you know, it's mostly leaves decaying and breaking down into the new soil down below. And yes, occasionally you have the animal walking by and doing their business, and that'll compost down too. But nowhere in nature is there such the volume of animal manures in nature. Now I may maybe get one mixture with some animal manures in there because it can provide some nutrition, but I'm going to go mostly with the plant-based manures. Animal manures may also contain things like antibiotics and other things that the animals ate that they're now excreting, that's going to basically end up in your garden, and when you put it in your vegetable garden, then you're going to eat the vegetables derived from that. So that's just kind of gross to me. So let's get some of this Echo Straps to start us off with. So this is the first one we're going to get. It's about 1 cubic foot. We're going to go ahead and put it on the cart. Now we got to get a couple more bags to fill up this raised bed. The next potting soil we're going to get is this stuff right here actually. It's called Doctor's Earth. And if there's probably any one potting soil that I like the best here, it's actually this stuff. It's actually the Doctor's Earth. This is called the Pot of Gold Premium Potting Soil. It's organic, 100% natural, handcrafted blend. Contains aloe vera and yucca extracts, pro moisture hydrate, and it also has beneficial microbes, including the beneficial bacteria that I like so much. Another thing I always encourage you guys to do before purchasing any potting soil, any soil in a bag, you want to turn the bag over and read the ingredients. And you're going to check out what's in here so that you know what's in there and if these ingredients are all right with you. In this potting soil we have forest humus, fir bark, peat moss, pumice, earthworm castings, kelp meal, alfalfa meal, soybean meal, seaweed extract, aloe vera, yucca extract, oyster shell and dolomite, limes, ecto and endomycorrhiza, and beneficial soil microbes. All right, that sounds definitely good to me, and this is 1.5 cubic feet. So pretty soon we'll be filling up that whole raised bed container for her. So the next thing we're going to get is another potting soil, and it's right here. This is actually called the Malibu compost, and this is actually a biodynamic compost. So the biodynamic compost, in my opinion, is, you know, probably even better than organic compost. Takes to the next level. Now this one's based on cow manure. So yes, I am adding manure-based source, but aside from that, it has a lot of other good ingredients in here, including coconut coir, compost, dairy cow manure, wood chips, straw, concentrates of yarrow, camomile, valerian, stinging nettle, dandelion, and oak bark, fir bark, perlite, worm casting, soybean meal, fishbone meal, langbeinite, alfalfa meal, crab meal, green sand, neem seed meal, volcanic ash, and kelp meal. So that definitely seems like a good mixture to me. And the other thing when buying the Malibu compost, this is a biodynamic compost. So what does that mean? It says on here this is only produced by a farm, a dairy farm that's certified biodynamic. So that means they don't use any antibiotics. You know, they don't use any of these harmful things that are going to end up in the cow poop like you would get at, you know, a local big box store where they're selling the, you know, cow manure for like $1. You know, well, this stuff isn't $1 either, but this is definitely good quality stuff, and this is going to make up just one of the bags I'm using. The rest is, for the most part, going to be plant-based composts. The next potting soil we're going to get is right here. This is actually called the Dr. Earth's Homegrown Premium Soil. This is organic and 100% natural handcrafted blend enriched with bat guano. And this is basically, this one's designed for growing pot herbs, if you know what I mean. Now my friend wants to grow some herbs, so you know this is designed for pot herbs. This would be an excellent mix. This is once again another Dr. Earth's product. So this Dr. Earth's product is pretty much similar to the other Dr. Earth's product, but this has been specifically formulated for those, you know, herbs and medicinal herbs that you might want to grow at home. So let's go ahead and get one of these. Last soil mix that I'm going to actually be picking up today is actually not a soil mix. It's actually a general purpose professional growing medium, because it does not actually contain soil. So if you're growing things like hydroponically inside, this is the #1 mix that they sell here actually that I was not aware about, because it is for professionals and it's not on the home gardening side, because once again they cater to farms and individuals. So the Pro Mix BX is basically the peat moss, the perlite, and the vermiculite with the built-in mycorrhiza. And from the feedback they've gotten here, they've got excellent growing results from people that are, you know, growing in soil and not growing in soil. Now, personally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some compost to this mixture because this is a soilless mixture. It doesn't have any soil in there, and I want definitely some soil to be in my mixes. But we're going to go ahead and try this stuff. Now, the cool thing about this is that this is 3.8 cubic feet. So this is over twice the size of little small wimpy bags I got. But the other thing is it says in small letters, compressed. Now, why this is important is because when this is uncompressed, it's going to probably turn into roughly 6 to 7 cubic feet of material. So that's definitely going to save you money. I guess let's go ahead and take one of these with me to try out. The last nutrient that I'm going to add to the already good potting soil mix is something that most potting soils do not have in the nice large ratio that I'd like, and that's this stuff right here. It's actually called the granulated natural trace minerals, or actually rock dust. This is actually in granular. I prefer the one that's more in a fine powder, such as this, and they actually have 3 different varieties here. They have the azomite, they have the agrowind minerals, and they have the maximize microbes and minerals by John and Bob's. Might be thinking, John, which one of these should I get? Well, if you're rich, buy one of all of them, because each one of these are basically ground up rocks from different sources, and each one will have their own spectrum of the trace minerals, and that's what we're looking for. We want the wide spectrum of different trace minerals to add to the soil so that they are available for the plant. In today's modern agriculture, they usually add 3 minerals, N, P, and K, and there's like 90 plus minerals that you could be adding to your soil. Now, when these are in your soil, your plant has access to them, and then they could actually pull them up, and your plants will be healthier, they're gonna grow larger, they're gonna yield more, and more importantly, they're gonna taste better. And for me specifically, the reason why I use the minerals, number one reason, is because I want to grow the most nutritious foods on the planet that money can't buy. Conventional agriculture and even most organic farming, they might only add 3 minerals back in. What about all the other 90 that we need for optimal health? And that's why I'm going to get some of the trace minerals today. And the one I'm going to get today, I believe, is this guy right here. This is the John and Bob's Maximize. I found out about this at my last trip here to Orange County Farm Supply, and this one not only has the minerals, but it also has the microbes, which are important to have a healthy garden, because the secret is all in the soil. So I guess that'll do it for my mixture that I'm going to fill the beds with. Next, let's pick out some plants. So one of the cool things I like about Orange County Farm Supplies, besides offering you guys the supplies that I'm loaded up on here and the plant starts, which they have a whole bunch of, they also have a little demonstration garden. Now, this is definitely important, especially if you're new into gardening, never grew before. They'll give you some examples of what you could do in your yard. And I've shown these guys before here, and you can see these are just little container gardens. And look at some of this amazing collard greens and kale going off. And furthermore, over here, actually, they got a nice large garden that I showed before. I have another video on that. I'll actually put the link down below. They actually have a vertical wall garden made out of a pallet, so a recycled pallet. They also do sell these pallet gardens to you guys, and they have a whole bunch of little beds here, raised beds on pallets that you could actually start growing food. I mean, you could have a little garden like this and you could supply your family with food every day of the year, especially here in Southern California. They got things like onions in there, they got zucchinis planted out there, they even got a little compost bin here so you could make your own compost at home. They got a whole thing of corn here, raised bed made with corn, simply made out of some 2x12 lumber, sitting on some concrete blocks. So even if you're over a parking lot, you don't need a yard to do this. You just need some space to do this, to build a bed like this so that you can start growing food. Here's that amazing container garden here that I showed you guys before, the pallet garden that's vertical. You can see it's growing some strawberries. They are now fruiting and making some fruit there. They got some nice herbs, including some sage in here as well. This one actually has some oregano growing, more strawberries. Oh yeah, check it out, man. Even a ripe one on here. We're gonna go ahead and, wow, nothing better than some Orange County grown strawberries. In this raised bed here, they have a whole bunch of basil. So this will meet your basil needs, whether you like to make pesto or, other things with basil. Herbs are definitely one of the easiest things to grow up, especially if you're a new gardener. So actually, that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna pick out some herbs for my friend to grow in her newly established tabletop raised bed garden. So the goal for my raised bed waist height garden for my friend is basically to grow things that she'll be able to use. So the thing that I think everybody should be growing are some leafy green vegetables. So we're definitely gonna have probably at least half the bed as the leafy greens that she could actually go outside and pick one leaf off the leafy green off each plant and make a salad out of. In addition, the other side, we're probably gonna grow some herbs that are pretty much grow year round here in Southern California, depending on the herb we're gonna get. So this would be a nice long lasting garden. In that way, half the garden's gonna be more like perennial-ish and continue to grow, and the other half is an annual where she'll have to actually replant it every year. So first, I think we're gonna go ahead and pick out some common herbs for her that she can enjoy from her garden fresh. So I just got about a whole flat here of herbs to plant out for my friend. We got things like chives, basil, dill, got some parsley, cilantro, bunching onions, Greek oregano, got a cool one, Mexican oregano, some colorful sage, and some English thyme. So and now all we gotta do is get the vegetables. My friend's gonna be a new gardener. Now I wanna really dazzle with a lot of different varieties of things so that she can try and see which one she's really liking. Because everybody's gonna have different taste buds, and if I say, oh, I like the red Russian kale, and she might not like them. So we're gonna get a whole bunch of different things, and I know she did want some cucumbers. So first what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get our red Russian kale. This is an excellent kale to grow in the summertime because it does handle the summer heat fairly well. In addition, we're gonna get her some of these guys down here. This is the arugula, and some of these plants here, man, they look amazing. They're in wonderful health, and arugula are great salad greens to eat. Plus, when they go to flower, you can also eat the flowers. They're really delicious. Now, I know one of the things she wanted to get was some cucumbers, and the problem we're gonna have with the cucumbers is that they are really tall and vining, and we can't really trellis things up, because she won't be able to reach them if they're too high. So what we're gonna do instead today is something real smart. We're gonna get these guys. These guys are actually called bush cucumbers. So these grow up more like a little bush than a nice large vine and can get unwieldy, especially in a small space. So we're gonna be sure to pick up some of these bush cucumbers for her. So it can be challenging to grow leafy greens in the summertime. Frankly, if it's too hot, they're not gonna do too well, so their selection is fairly limited, but we're gonna try to get as wide of a selection for her as possible. Another thing they got right now are these guys right here, and these are some cabbage. And we're just gonna go ahead and get some of this cabbage so we could plant out all different kinds of leafy greens for her. Now, while cabbage you think of, they make that little nice tight head like that iceberg lettuce head. You can simply also pick off the leaves of each cabbage plant and eat them in a salad. So she could literally take like one of each of these leaves and put in a bowl and start eating out of her garden instead of the grocery store. Oh, another thing they got that's really cool right now is we're gonna go ahead and get her a radish. Now, it's kind of silly for most people to buy radish plants like this, but we don't have the time to germinate the seeds, which I recommend you do, especially on the radishes, because not only will she have the radishes, but she could also eat the radish greens, and many people don't know that. So another leafy green we're gonna get today is this guy right here. This is the spinach Bloomsdale long standing. So this is a good variety for the summertime. Now, I personally find that spinach doesn't yield a whole lot of leafage for the plant. I'd rather get something else, but I think we're gonna go ahead and put this in the mix because she does need to eat her greens. So the last thing we're gonna get is some lettuce. So we're getting a nice mixture here, and I like this mixture here. This is a gourmet salad blend mix. So this has a whole bunch of different kinds of lettuce in there, including some maybe red romaine, some standard romaine, and some curly leaf lettuce that's red. I always encourage you guys to buy foods and plants that are not just green but also red, because they have different phytochemicals and phytonutrients in. I guess just by this last little 6-pack here, I think we're done all good with our vegetables. The next thing we're gonna get besides the soil and the plants is some way to water for her. Now, she's in an apartment complex, and I don't know if they have a hose available, and I don't know this kind of stuff, but we want to be able to give her a way that she can water her plants, because besides sunlight, number one plant need is water. And we also want to make sure she does not overwater her plants. So, because we don't know if she has a hose set up, and if she did have a hose set up, I'd recommend a waterer like this. We want to duplicate nature. We don't want to spray one of those sprayers here like these guys. I know all you guys have these. You guys blast your car clean with it. I mean, these are great for blasting your car clean and for, hosing off your sidewalk, but they're not good for the plants, especially if you put it on that jet stream, man. Not good. It's going to really disrupt the soil and probably disrupt your plants too. So we're going to get one of these guys, and we want to duplicate the rain. Actually, this is a really nice, handy one. Nice size with a little push trigger here to water the plants. And this duplicates the rain, you know, with all these little fine small holes. And this is what I like to use when I water my plants, something that duplicates the rain that you could literally take a shower under. But we don't know if she has a hose hookup. So what we're going to do for her actually is we're just going to get her a way to duplicate the rain without a hose hookup. And that's just very simple right here. This is a very simple watering can. It happens to be plastic and it's a nice blue pastel color, perfect for a girl. And if you look at the little nozzle right here, it has a lot of little small holes. So this will duplicate the rain. Instead of just, you know, dumping balls of water or, you know, things of water on there, she'll be able to now simulate the rain and water her plants. Just about done loading up the Jeep. This is how I get my exercise, man. Moving gardening products instead of going to the gym. Don't waste your money on gym memberships, man. Just start gardening. Moving compost and soil and getting out in nature and sweating too. All right, so we got this loaded up pretty much. We got all our soil mixture in here, and I want to introduce you to the raised bed garden, the waist height raised bed garden we're using. It's right here, made out of a cedar wood here, Canadian cedar wood, that I then did finish with the Eco Wood product. Has a nice rich color here. And I want to give a shout out to Susquehanna Garden Concepts. They donated this for this project so that my friend, you know, who is in a wheelchair can now start growing her own food. So yes, definitely the raised bed on legs so that people don't have to bend over. So I guess the last thing we need to do is we need to load in the plant starts and some other things. And besides the plant starts we got here, I'm also brought her one very special plant. This is one of my purple perennial tree collards. These are the very tree collards that the police came to my house to find, actually. And this is one of them. So this is gonna go into my friend's garden. I guess the last thing is, let's go ahead and load up the rest of these plants. Here's the last bit of plants we're gonna go ahead and put in the Jeep. And we gotta make sure these aren't gonna rock and roll anywheres. I think they're pretty stable in there. Close up the Jeep. Now let's head over to the friend's house. So now we're here at my friend's place, and she lives in an apartment complex. So, you know, even if you live in an apartment complex and, you know, are in a wheelchair, you can still grow a garden. Even if you're not in a wheelchair and not in an apartment complex, no matter wherever you are, there's always a way to grow a garden. So I'm really happy that I got, you know, all the supplies from Orange County Farm Supply. Next, actually the big challenge is actually going in from the streets into the apartment complex, which is actually a 3-story apartment complex, to get everything in there, and then we're gonna just set it up and so she can start growing some food. So I guess next what we're gonna do is go ahead and unload that Jeep. It's quite full. As you guys saw earlier, I got the potting soil here and the raised bed here that's gonna be on the legs and all the plants, and we even got her the watering can. So I guess the next thing is we're just gonna basically unload all this stuff. We have a little dolly, piano dolly, that we're just gonna set everything on and roll it in. All right, so here it is. You can see everything I need pretty much to put this garden is contained in the raised bed. You know, that's gonna be on the legs here. I got my little Ryobi screwdriver to screw it together. And we got all the organic potting soil that we picked up, as well as the minerals, trace minerals, and all the plants. I mean, it really is that simple to put together a garden. I mean, this is literally all you need. Anybody could do this. So I guess let's go into the apartment complex and do the install. So now we're rolling into the apartment complex, and you know, as you can see, they got a nice swimming pool here and just some you know, shrubbery and non-edibles growing in the background. But we're gonna start growing some food, and literally everybody at this apartment complex, or any apartment complex you guys live, you could easily set up a garden like this to start growing some of your own food, and it is really that simple. I guess we're almost to where we're gonna set this up, so we'll get this unpacked and we'll come at you and show you how easy this truly is to set up. Now we're all set up in the location where we're gonna set this garden up, and as you can see, I mean, this is everything we're gonna need. It might look like a lot of stuff, but all the bagged soil is actually going to end up in this little raised bed right here. Now this raised bed is about 2 feet by about 4 feet and about 1 foot deep, so that's about 8 cubic feet of soil, and we probably got a little bit over 8 cubic feet here, so we might have a little bit of extra soil. Now I want to go over the, you know, the raised bed kit here. Pretty much all you're going to need to do is assemble it. So it has these little legs here, and we're just going to simply take the drill with some screws and screw the legs on. So this is going to be at a nice height for my friend. And it's recommended that if you are growing food for somebody in a wheelchair, you got to make it sure that the raised bed is at the right height. You know, if it's too low, then they can't reach down to do their gardening, and if it's too tall, then they can't reach up and over into it. So the best height to have for people in wheelchairs is you want to make the top of the garden about 24 inches to a maximum of about 30 inches. Luckily enough, this Susquehanna Garden Concepts cedar raised bed comes in from the factory at 30.5 inches tall. So, you know, while I could sit here and saw off some of this is already really close to the optimal height for people in wheelchairs. Another thing very important when designing a garden for people in wheelchairs is to have proper access. So you want to usually have like 3 feet, you know, on any side of the garden to have it accessible. So, you know, the wheelchair could get in and maneuver, and then they could do their gardening. The best way to do gardening in a wheelchair is to, you know, roll up sideways into it and then lean over versus going into the front of it and then, you know, working it this direction. The other thing that's very important is also having a raised bed that's not too deep. So the standard raised bed that I recommend you guys build normally for in the ground is 4 feet by 4 feet. And, you know, that would be a little bit too large for somebody in a wheelchair. So what we're going to do here is this one's actually 4 feet, which is a good dimension. And then you want it no wider than 3 feet. This one actually happens to be 2. So that's the perfect size for somebody in a wheelchair so that they will be able to work it. In addition, I always recommend you guys grow the largest garden as possible. The more garden space you have, that means the more food you can grow so that you can be eating out of your garden instead of the grocery store. I guess so. The last thing I want to talk about is the Susquehanna Garden Concepts, this raised bed, and why I like this. Let's go ahead and move some of these plants out of here. And that's because of the bottom. And the bottom here is actually a recycled plastic. And you know, many raised beds, especially if they're raised off the ground like this, may have a wooden bottom. And the problem with that is that, you know, water always drains down. The water will sit on the wooden bottom of most raised beds such as this and rot it out. So the bottom will rot out well before the sides do. In this garden, it's been designed very well with a plastic bottom, so that the bottom will not rot out. And the cedar, they're using really good cedar wood that is decay, bug resistant, plus as an added bonus, I treated this with the Eco Wood treatment that actually seeps into the wood to protect it. It gives it a really nice colored grayish brown finish, and it's going to protect the wood without any toxins. I guess the next step is I'm just going to simply go ahead and assemble this bed and then fill it with some soil, plant the plants, and then I'm out of here. Alright, so I'm just screwing in the few screws. Each basically leg takes 4 screws, so that's 4, 8, 12, 16 screws total to put this together because it already does come pre-assembled. All you gotta do is put in the legs. So I guess once we're done with that, we're gonna then start filling it up with the soil. Now, one of the concerns you guys might have is, you know, some apartment complexes may not allow you to grow things. You know, they may want the decorative landscaping and whatnot, and you can't bring soil in and all this kind of stuff. But basically, the cool thing about this raised bed is basically all you could think of it as like a little pot. I mean, they have some potted plants over there, and this is basically just like one large pot that's on legs so that people that are, you know, in a wheelchair could access it, or, you know, older people that may not want to bend down, or people that don't like bending either. So this is truly an accessible garden, and I don't think they could outlaw those. All right, so we got this built, and you know, pretty much one person can move it by themselves. Once it's totally assembled, it is actually fairly light. Once you do fill it, another cool thing about this garden is that you can move it. Something really smart might be to put casters on the bottom of the leg, so actually you could move it around to, you know, to follow the sun. You know, this spot we chose here is just a convenient spot for my friend to have a little garden and have access to it, and it does get sun about half the day. So we're going to focus on growing things that are greens and herbs, not necessarily fruiting crops, although I did get some bush cucumbers, which we'll see how they do. In general, if you have lower sun, then it's better to grow the greens rather than fruiting crops. Fruiting crops would be anything that makes a fruit you eat, such as the cucumbers, the peppers, and the tomatoes, and things like squash like that. So even in this, you know, indirect sunlight, it should do great, especially with some of the herbs we're going to plant out. I guess next we're going to go ahead and get this into position and start filling it with our soil mix. We got the bed built, and now we're just going to start filling it up with our different potting soils. Now, you know, you can see that I got a whole bunch of different kinds, and that's because I want to get a nice symbiosis. You know, I know a lot of you guys might say, John, but what is the best one? I don't know what the best one is. I haven't actually personally used these products yet until this time. So I'm going to be mixing, you know, a little bit of each to make sure that we get all the different stuff in there, because, you know, the more nutrients you can add to the soil, because each one of these composts is basically based on different formulas and have different, you know, organic additives in there, so that will allow your plants to thrive. One of the things that I might do if I, you know, didn't get a donation of all these different items, because some of these potting soils actually can get quite expensive, I'd make my own mixture. So how would I make my own mixture? I would do basically what's called a Mel's mix. This is 1/3 compost, 1/3 peat moss or coconut coir, and 1/3 of the vermiculite. That being said, that's what basically these potting soils are. They're basically doing that for you in a nice, easy, convenient way. That you all you have to do is simply take some scissors, cut the bag open, and dump it in. All right, so that was the eco scraps. No chemicals, no poop, organic. And this has a nice texture here. Seems like it's a lot of like, you know, unbroken down, you know, wood chips, which I don't actually personally like too much. So we're gonna mix that in with the next product here. I'm gonna check out and see what that's like. This is actually called the Malibu Compost Biodynamic Baby Booze Biodynamic Blend Potting Soil. So next we're gonna go ahead and cut that one open. All right, let's dump this guy in. So I like this mixture a lot better. I mean, here's a difference there. This is the booze blend. Here's that other stuff. There's a lot more like texture, like little pieces of wood and things that aren't fully composted, whereas this stuff is a nice, really excellent mix there. But you know what? You guys get what you pay for. The booze blend biodynamic stuff's a bit more expensive than the eco stuff there. What I'm going to do next is actually, you know, start mixing this stuff together before we add anything else, because I want to get all the different composts mixed together and not have it in layers, so it's evenly distributed throughout our little waist-height raised bed garden here. So we got those two things mixed up in here. It's looking pretty nice, and that one product, you know, had a whole bunch of different wood particles in there. It says composted like forest waste, but a lot of this, you know, to me, this is not composted when you have full solid pieces of sticks and whatnot in there. So not too happy with that stuff. But you know, that's what you get a lot of times when you get, you know, forested products. And I thought, because it's called eco scraps, and they promote it as like fruit and vegetable based scraps, not a lot of forest products, you know, it'd have more real compost in there, but it wasn't that way. Next, I have high hopes for this stuff. Dr. Earth's Pot of Gold Premium Soil. Let's go ahead and open this guy up and see what it looks like. Oh wow, man, this stuff is the bomb. So far, this is stuff I like the most. We're gonna go ahead and pour this out so you guys can see it. Look at the color difference between that and the stuff currently in the bed. I mean, this stuff here is like brown, but this stuff is rich and black. I mean, this is the stuff you want to be growing in. It's fully composted. I don't see any, you know, anything uncomposted, and it's just really rich. I'm glad we got, you know, a whole bunch of this stuff with Dr. Earth's for my friend today. And now we got all this mixed in here, and so far the 3 bags filled up, I don't know, probably like maybe 2/3 of the bed. Now we're gonna put the next layer in. What we're gonna add next is this stuff right here. It's actually called the John and Bob's Maximize. So this is actually the minerals and the microbes. We're gonna add those into the soil so that the plants can dance and be healthy. Now this bag, this little bag here, says it treats 1,000 square feet. So this is actually just about 8 square feet. But we're gonna put a nice healthy dose in here to make sure all the plants grown in here have all the minerals they need, and also the beneficial microbes so that they can be healthy. And we're just gonna sprinkle this on top, then we're just gonna go ahead and mix it in. So I think it's really important you guys get your hands in the soil and feel the soil. I think, you know, we're far insulated in this day and age from nature and actually the soil. And then think about it, the soil is where is what really created life on Earth. The plants come from the soil, we eat the plants. Man, soil is just amazing stuff. And yeah, be sure to fill your raised beds with some good soil, not just maybe the dirt pre-existing at your house. Got all those minerals added in, and next we're gonna go add this guy. This is actually the Dr. Earth's homegrown premium soil. Now this is specifically formulated for growing pot herbs, if you know what I mean. My friend's gonna definitely grow some herbs, some probably maybe medicinal, but probably mostly culinary herbs. So we're gonna get this mixed, and we're gonna check out and see what this one's like. This is fairly similar to the other Dr. Earth's premium potting mix we had, but this is once again a special formulation. So once again, we're just gonna mix this in to our mixture here. Now, one of the reasons why I like the Dr. Earth stuff is because number one, wow, this stuff's really rich too. It's really rich, but it also has a probiotics, so the beneficial microbes that are gonna basically colonize in the root zone of your plants and then actually help your plants bring in nutrition. And they will even be more resistant to drought, times of drought. They can, the mycorrhiza can reduce watering needs by 20%, and that can be a significant amount of water. So let's go ahead and pour this guy out. And once again, no surprise, this mixture is nice and dark. Actually, nice and really dark. A lot of good stuff, nice and fine. No uncomposted stuff in this mix. So I got this full, and we're probably like, man, we're so close. We're probably like 85% full, but we got that much of a lip on there. And I always like to fill my raised beds or containers to the brim. Not totally to the brim, because then if you water, the water rolls over the side. But we want to fill it up as much as possible and just leave a little bit of space so that when you do water, the water is going to stay inside your raised bed. Now, why do I like to fill it up to the brim? I don't know. It's like putting the toilet paper on the roll on, coming off the top instead of underneath the bottom. It's just, to me, the right thing to do. The soil is where your plant's roots are going to live, and the more soil you can provide, the more of a home you're going to provide, and also the more nutrition that's going to be available in there for your plants. So that's why I really like to fill things up. It's just the most optimal way to grow things, in my opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up this last bag of a Dr. Earth's pot of gold, and we're just going to put just enough in there so that I could fill this up almost to the top, but not over the top. So I got the waist height raised bed garden filled with definitely the good stuff, and now we're all ready to plant out. So besides the soil you're going to fill it with, it's probably very important to make the proper selection with the right plants. You want to grow the right plants in the right climate at the right time of year. So luckily at Orange County Farm Supply, they're supplying the plants that are going to do well in this environment at this time. Plus, actually, they had really good prices. The 4-inch pots were like $1, and I think that's just a great price for those little 4-inchers. So anyways, what we're going to do next is actually lay the plants out. We're probably going to just put them where I think they're going to be planted on top of the soil. And then I'm probably going to go ahead and dig them in and get them all planted. As you guys can see, I got all the plants laid out in here. Now we got 30 plants in this 2-foot by 4-foot bed. So yes, that's absolutely a lot of plants. Let me go ahead and share with you guys some of the plants that actually I ended up planting in here. So I try to think about when I'm planting things like what it's going to look like when it's done. Because I know things like chives, they're going to stay pretty small. So I put those near the edge. Some of the things like cilantro and the parsley are going to get fairly tall, and then near the end I got the dill, the basil, and the Mexican oregano that's actually going to get really tall as well. And that's that's basically the herb side. Now what you may notice is that I am planting things rather close, so I normally subscribe to the Mel Bartholomew square foot gardening standards of planting on how close to space the different plants you're planting, and this is to give them enough room to grow into a full mature crop so that you can harvest them. Now, the technique I'm using here is a little bit different, and I have done this before. It's like this is my container garden spacing. I tend to space things a little bit closer together, and you could totally get away with that, especially if you have a good soil mixture that has the nutrition that the plants need. And why I'm doing this is that we could fit a lot more plants in there, and then the goal is to actually come out every day, every couple days, and harvest a little bit off each plant. That way you're going to keep them trimmed down. It's kind of like if you have fruit trees and you have so many fruit trees, right? You could grow one big, huge fruit tree that has a massive span, or you grow a lot of little ones and keep them pruned to keep them nice and small so that they'll continue to produce for you. So that's the goal with this garden. We're planting things, yes, closer than recommended, but they're going to come out and clip all this stuff and eat it every day, because that's the goal of the garden. So as long as you continue to clip and keep things small, the root ball is going to develop, and it's going to actually grow a little bit quicker to produce the food that you can eat. And that's why we're doing that. So back over to the other side, we got the herbs on this side, and then we got the vegetables on the other half. We got things like the radishes, which you can eat the greens, and also harvest the little radishes. These are actually French breakfast radishes. We got things like the spinach, some lettuce, and some arugula, as well as some red Russian kale here. And then also, of course, the tree collards in the back. And for fun, we're gonna go ahead and try to plant some cucumbers. We got some of the bush cucumbers, so they're not actually gonna make a big vine. They're just gonna kind of grow, hopefully, a little nice bush, and hopefully that are gonna grow really well. Now, one of the things I did consult my friend Kenza when selecting what to plant out, and we asked her, what's her favorite things from all the different ones. And so these are her favorite things that she really likes, and I definitely approve. I really like the cilantro and parsley myself, and I definitely love my leafy greens as she does, and you should too. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and start planting these guys out, and we'll be back at you when this is all planted out. We got a successful garden. Yet another viewer actually is gonna be growing some food because of me. And check this out, we got the garden planted out, 30 little baby plants. This is perfect for somebody in a wheelchair, or even older people that don't want to bend over. I do want to thank Susquehanna Garden Concepts and Orange County Farm Supply for making this available, and now allowing my friend Kenza able to grow some of her own food. So Kenza, do you have any words you'd like to say to my viewers today?
I'm so grateful for the time John put in today to come and help me grow my own food, because I've lived in an apartment without a balcony or a patio, and my neighbor has been so gracious to contribute some of her space here for me to have my own garden finally. And I'm so excited to grow mineral-rich food that's nutrient dense, and I've been watching John for such a long time, and I've been so inspired. So it's finally coming into fruition, and that's so cool. So excited. Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad, Kenza, I could get somebody else growing.
Yeah. I feel so fortunate. Really awesome experience. This is awesome.
And I just want to let you guys know, no matter wherever you live, whether you live in an apartment complex with no space, no patio, whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you're older, whether you're a kid, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, no matter what color you are, there's always a way to start growing a garden today. Just be persistent and, make it happen. I did use a lot of different things. We're furnished by the two companies, Susquehanna Garden Concepts and Orange County Farm Supply, and they made this available. But there's many local resources you may be able to find. Just a couple of videos ago, I showed how I was able to make a garden out of just standard produce crates that would normally get thrown away. So, be resourceful, be persistent, and yes, you can be growing today. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this episode, learning about how to grow a garden, especially for somebody in a wheelchair, or, elderly or handicapped, disabled people. And, you'll be able to do it too. Just put your mind to it, and you'll be able to start growing your own food, mineral-rich, mineral-dense food, better than anything else that you could be eating from the grocery store. So once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing.